atom is the smallest part of an element which takes part in chemical reaction. Basically, that is a complete definition for atom. It can be further divided. It was first considered as indivisible, but now it can be divided into electrons, protons, and neutrons. So there was certain model proposed by different scientists, different workers, who told us about atom structure, how atom structure. So for that certain models were given. So today we will be discussing atomic models. Different scientists proposed different models according to the conviction they had that time. There were some drawbacks in the initial one, therefore we had to make new models, new experiments, and then after that today we are successful at some point in knowing the structure of atom. So the first model which was given by, we'll just have an outline of what models we are going to study and then we'll study them in detail. The first one is Thomson atomic model. Thomson was the scientist who gave this model, and this was the initial model. The next is Dalton's atomic model. The next was given by the third atomic model, which was well known, which was given by Rutherford and is known as Rutherford's atomic model. The fourth is Bohr's atomic model, which we are going to deal with. These are the four important models which were proposed, and due to some defects or drawbacks they were replaced by the other one. Initially we were having Thomson atomic model. The last which we today prefer is the modern atomic model. So we'll be discussing about these models. After Bohr also certain scientists like Sommerfeld and also gave some models, but that is not very well known and that is studied mostly in physics and all due to that physical relation. Basically we'll study these models, atomic models. In these atomic models we'll study how the electrons, the neutrons, the protons were placed, where their arrangement was, how it was found. Mostly we'll see how they are arranged, the structure of atom basically in these models. So first model was proposed by J. Thomson and is called as Thomson atomic model. This model also has some other names. It is also called as plum pudding model, raisin pudding model, plum pudding model, raisin pudding model, watermelon model. By the name only you can see watermelon model means what? It will be resembling to watermelon. So in plum pudding also by the name you can see the plums in the pudding. Plums were considered electrons and the pudding was considered as the protons. So first we'll see the model which he proposed. Okay. It was just like a watermelon, which if cut, how it looks, same this model resembled. It resembled the watermelon, and it was similar to a watermelon with a red spongy mass inside, and there was same as a watermelon, there are black seeds just like a watermelon. There are black seeds inside it. These seeds are considered to be the electrons. The spongy mass is the proton part. Okay, so this was basically the model of Thomson. He told that the electrons are embedded in the pool of protons. They are randomly distributed. He did not tell anything about the arrangement of electrons, how they were arranged or how the protons were arranged. He only told that the protons pool is there and in that electrons are embedded. You can consider these black seeds of the watermelon as the raisins for the raisin pudding model and plums for the plum pudding model. So this was the arrangement basically what he made for the watermelon model or the plum pudding model. Now what he called this red spongy mass, that is the protons that are positively charged, and the black seed he called them as electrons, that is they are negatively charged particles. So negatively charged. According to him, only two types of particles were present, positive and negative. Neutrons were not discovered that time. So his model was basically based on the protons and electrons. He told one thing, that number of protons are equal to number of electrons, and so according to him, An atom is electrically neutral. It has no charge. Electrically neutral because the number of protons and number of electrons are same. So the number of positive charges is equal to number of negative charge, which cancel each other and thus make the electrically neutral. So this was the basic necessity of an atom, that is it should be electrically neutral. What thing he could not explain, that he could not explain the arrangement of electron, how the electrons were arranged, and he did not have the proof of this theory, no evidence. He only made this he only gave an assumption that in this way an atom can be, no evidence for his theory. So practically there was no evidence. He only drew a model and told that this is the structure of atom could be. This model was proposed in the year 1903 when neutrons were not discovered. That time only protons and electrons were known. That is why his model had only protons and electrons. There were no neutrons. This was the first model of atomic among the atomic models. Now we'll discuss the second atomic model, that is Dalton's atomic model. This Dalton's atomic model was very famous in its time. It had its own importance, and it was basically very important because it gave us many laws. Okay, it was that after the models of Rutherford and Bohr, we came to know its certain drawbacks and all, but essentially it made a lot of important points. So this model was basically given by Sir John Dalton. Sir John Dalton proposed this model. Okay. John Dalton was a school teacher who joined Thomson in his work and then carried out his work further. He was first associated with Thomson. He did some experiments with him also, but then he did his own lab work also. So Dalton's atomic model was given by Sir John Dalton. Okay, it had some postulates as well. He gave some postulates. He did not make any model as such, or he did not conduct any experiment. He only made some postulates, that is assumption. He gave some postulates, that is assumption. He told that matter is made up of small particles called atoms, which cannot be further divided. Means they cannot be further broken down, cannot be further divided. That is, it was considered to be indivisible or uncuttable. He considered atoms to be indestructible. Means it cannot be destructed or it cannot be created. So that is, it can neither be created by any chemical process or destroyed as well by any chemical process. So atoms can neither be destroyed or created by any chemical process. This was very important point he made, and it is true till today. The next thing what he said, that all atoms of an element are identical. What does this mean now? Suppose I draw a picture, it will be very clear to all of you. Suppose these are atoms of any element X. Suppose an element X. These are atoms. According to him, the atoms are identical. Identical to what? Means they are identical in all respects, in all aspects. That is, whether in size, mass or chemical properties. They should be similar. They should have no different. Like an element X will have atoms different from any other element, that is Y. If Y is having certain atoms, certain properties, then element X will not have the same size, mass. So the atom of element X is different from the atom of element Y. But all the atoms of element Y are similar to each other, and all the atoms of X are similar to. So the next point So the next point is that atoms of different elements are different. They are different in all respects. That is in size, mass or chemical property. Fifth point what he told was very important. That is atoms can neither be created. Next point what he told was atoms take part in a chemical reaction. That is atom is the smallest part which takes part in a chemical reaction. Suppose here I burn a matchstick. For burning a matchstick, first a minimum amount of atoms should get the ignition temperature to which it can burn. Now, like if I burn a paper, the burning will start from initial small part and then it will follow to the rest of the part, or it will continue further. That is, for anything to happen, initially each individual part should first perform that experiment, and that is very true. Like if you dissolve a salt in water, you take a pinch and dissolve, it will dissolve. You take very small amount, it will dissolve. But if you put a lump of salt that is packed, means that is not free flow, then what will happen? It will take time to dissolve. First its outer part will dissolve little and then it will dissolve completely. It means for any, here it is not a chemical reaction, but I'm just saying that for any reaction to occur, atoms take part in it. Like if I burn anything like wood piece, then the wood piece will not catch fire completely itself. First it will catch fire on one side and then it will get burned, okay, and form into ash. So this is basically the meaning is that the atom is the smallest part which take part in a chemical reaction, or smallest particle you say which takes part in a chemical reaction. For any reaction to occur, the smallest part should first participate, then only the reaction can be followed. Next point what he said was a compound is formed when two or more elements combine to each other in simple ratio. Okay, if different elements combine in simple ratio, then a compound is. So you can say a compound is formed when two or more different elements combine together in fixed ratio or fixed simple ratio. That is, they are in multiples of. You can take an example over here of water. Like water. In water, if you see the number of atoms, hydrogen and the ratio of atoms of oxygen. In the case of water, if you take the ratio of the two elements, hydrogen and oxygen, then you see by atoms, there are two atoms of hydrogen combining with one atom of oxygen. That is the fixed ratio. So, hydrogen and oxygen combine in fixed ratio of 2:1 in atoms. That is, two atoms of hydrogen and one atom of oxygen. And if you say by mass or by weight, then you take the mass, that is 1 into 2 for hydrogen. 1 is the atomic mass of hydrogen, and as two atoms are there, therefore the mass is 1 into 2, and for oxygen the mass is 16. So according to the masses, that is 1:8. So you can say in 9 parts of water, 1 part will be hydrogen and 8 parts will be oxygen. Okay, so this is a simple example. More example you can take is of CO2, that is carbon dioxide. In carbon dioxide, carbon combines with oxygen. By atoms you can see one atom of carbon combines with two atoms of oxygen. And if by mass, you can calculate that by mass, the mass of carbon is 12 and that of oxygen is 16, and as two atoms of oxygen are taken, therefore 2 into 16 is 32. Therefore the ratio comes out to be 3:8 by mass. So carbon combines with oxygen in the ratio 3:1 mass, then it will always form carbon dioxide. And different compounds will be formed. Different compounds will be formed when same elements combine in different ratio. For example, we have discussed for carbon dioxide, we'll take the same example and we'll form another compound. Like for carbon dioxide, there is atoms are of carbon. Atoms of carbon and oxygen are 1:2. And in the case of carbon monoxide, carbon ratio oxygen is 1:1. Okay, here we are considering the number of atoms of carbon and oxygen. If we take the ratio by mass, then the mass of carbon is 12 and that of oxygen is 16. Two atoms, therefore 32. So the ratio will become 3:8. And in this case 12:16, then the ratio comes to 3:4. It means that if carbon and oxygen combine in the ratio 3:4, then it will form always carbon monoxide, and if it combines in the ratio 3:8, then it will form carbon dioxide. So this way we can also take an example of hydrogen peroxide and water. Okay, in hydrogen peroxide the ratio is 1:1, whereas in water the ratio is the ratio is 2:1 in case of atoms. Okay, so in this way he showed us some important laws in how the atoms of different elements combine. So these were the postulates of Dalton, but among them there were certain demerits as well, and there were certain merits. First we'll discuss the merits and then we'll go to the demerits. Now we'll discuss about the merits of Dalton's atomic theory. The merit. It is very true till today that atoms take part in chemical reaction. Second is it follows two laws, that is law of conservation of mass, that is atoms can neither be created nor be destroyed. Law of conservation of mass and laws of chemical combination and laws of chemical combination. The law of chemical combination, which we have discussed earlier in the points 5th and 6th, that is when elements combine in fixed ratio and when elements combine in different ratio. They are the law of chemical combination. Okay. So these two laws were these three laws. Two laws of the chemical combination and one law of conservation of mass was explained by Dalton. That was a very good merit, very good part on Dalton's side. Now we'll discuss some demerits of Dalton. Now law of chemical combination are those fifth and sixth point which we had discussed earlier. That when elements combine in simple ratio they form a compound, and when they combine in different ratios they will form different compound. These were the two laws of chemical combination. Now we'll deal with the demerits. Demerits of Dalton's atomic theory. Although this theory was very beneficial, but it was unable to explain why atoms combined, why atoms of same elements combine. He explained how different elements combine and they formed in different ratio, but he could not explain why atoms of same elements combine and how. Secondly, he considered atoms to be indivisible, that is they cannot be divided. But now we know that atoms can be divided, that is they can be divided into protons, neutrons and electrons. So atoms are no longer indivisible. They can be divided into subatomic particles, that is protons, neutrons and electrons. These are the subatomic particles. Some more demerits of Dalton were that Dalton considered that all atoms of an element are always identical, but it is not so always. All atoms of an element need not be identical in all aspects. For example, we can take a case of few elements such as hydrogen. Hydrogen can have three isotopes, 1H1, 1H2 and 1H3. So here isotopes are having same atomic number but different mass number. Now he considered that atoms of all elements are identical in shape, size, mass, etc. But here the masses are different for hydrogen. 1H1 is having mass 1, whereas 1H2 that is having mass 2 and tritium that is 1H3 is having mass 3. So they are having different masses. It means the atoms of 1H1 that is hydrogen is different from that of deuterium. Okay, so you can say that that concept of Dalton was wrong. Similarly, the example of carbon 612 and carbon 614. Here the mass numbers are different. So atoms are also different to each other. Although the element carbon is same, but the atoms, the mass are different. Okay. So this was an exception. No, sorry. This was a drawback of Dalton, that on considering isotopes, they are having different mass numbers and the atoms are not identical to each other in their masses. Similarly, we can take the example of oxygen, that is 8O16 and 8O18. Okay, these are some examples of isotopes. Isotopes are those which have same atomic number and different mass number. The atomic numbers are same in these cases and the mass number are different. Another point what Dalton told was atoms of different elements are different, but it is not necessary that atoms of different elements be different in all respects. Atoms of different elements need not always different in all aspects. Here we can see this case by understanding isobars. Isobars are those which have same mass number, that is atomic mass, and different atomic number. Now we take an example of the isobar, that is 6C12, 6C14 and 7N14. Here both the elements are different. They are having different atomic number, but their mass number is same. This cannot be the case according to Dalton. Dalton told that all things should be different for different element, but here these atomic number are same. So you can say that this was a drawback of Dalton, which told that different elements should have everything in different. More example we can take is of argon having atomic number 18 and mass number 20, and calcium having atomic number 20 and mass number. Another example we can take is of argon, atomic number 18 and mass number 40, and calcium atomic number 20, mass number 40. In this case also the atomic numbers are different but the mass number are same, which cannot be according to Dalton. Dalton said that no two elements can have same mass. So these were the two major drawbacks of Dalton, that is when the discovery of isotopes and discovery of isobars took place. Here they are having different mass numbers, whereas in the case of isobars they are having same mass number but different. So these were the two important models, that is Thomson's atomic model and Dalton.